Hey, what's up, family? Welcome back to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are sitting down today with Dr. Katrina Burrus. She is the founder and CEO of Excellent Executive Coaching, and she has been developing and inspiring leadership since 1996. So we're about to tap into a whole wealth of knowledge on how to optimize and develop our leadership habits, right? It can be a practice, it can be learned. Sometimes the argument that, leaders are born, not made is can be a little bit strong, but I think there's a good balance between the two. So Katrina, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time doing this for us.
Thank you, Rafael. I'm delighted to be on the show.
Yeah. Also, let me just throw out there, I was completely amazed right now when you started speaking Spanish to me, because it's on point. Your Spanish is really, really good. And for a minute there, I thought you were from a Latin country there, or something like that. But no, you're Swedish and American, which is interesting. So it's a very eclectic mix. I love it.
I'm Swiss. From Switzerland, not Swedish. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started? And you launched in 1996 and you went into developing leadership. How did that get started?
So look, I was a banker of Swiss bank in Geneva, Switzerland, where they parle français, they speak French. And I was there several years managing money. And at one point I thought, that's not really what I want to do. No me llena, as they say in Spanish. No, it doesn't fulfill me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to leave, and I had no other job. I just decided to leave, and I got two incredible bank offers in banks that 2 years before I would have not even dreamed of working for these prestigious banks. But I didn't want to go into banking anymore. But I was interested in the fact that a stock price goes higher if it's perceived to have good leadership in the company. And the price over earnings is very much higher if they say, that company has great leadership.
Wow.
That's what I took away from the banking. And so what I did, I left, which my ex-husband said I was crazy to leave without another job, but I work by passion. So whether I'm passionate or not, but I didn't know what I knew what I left, and it paid well, and I was a high potential, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so it's an uncomfortable situation. So what did I do? I knew I loved leadership and understanding it. So I went to every conference I could do. And one day I went to a conference with the CEO of Nestle. Nestle is the biggest beverage, food, etc. In the world. And I noticed him and how he spoke. And I looked at the audience, and I looked at the reactions, and I wrote down. And you know what? I was not working, so I sent him a letter. And what did I have to lose? No, right?
Right.
So what I did was write the letter, and then I got a thank you letter. Oh, great, nothing more. But I went to a party, and I walk in, and who do I see but the CEO of Nestle?
What?
And I see, yes. And I came with a scooter because it's easier to communicate. But he's a biker too. He's a biker. He's a pilot. He's many things.
Wow.
But I saw a group of people around him hovering and breathing his same oxygen. And I said, no, groupie, I am not. So it was a
groupie, I am not. I like it.
So I decided not, I sat down with all my girlfriends. And one point, one of the girlfriends goes and serves herself food. And who do I see? This handsome, tall man sit down. And it was the CEO of Nestle. And he says, I didn't have enough time to do it, really to develop it and this and that. And I said, what? He's telling me, Mrs. Nobody, and justifying his speech when he's managing at the time 235,000 people.
Wow.
Now today it's a lot more. But I thought, oh my God, So I said, you know what? I don't know what hit me that day, but I said, I can help you because there's maybe at least 3 ways of processing information. And if you make sure that your speech addresses those 4 styles, your audience will feel like you're talking to them. I said, very interesting. Okay, I'll meet you in a month at such and such a place at such and such a day. Okay, well,
Wow.
inshallah, So 1 month passes by, and then I come to the appointment and I wait half hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour. And then finally he walks in because he was with the press,
Mhm.
press all over. Finally he walks in, and then all of a sudden I said, oh my God, what am I going to say? I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I don't know what I said or what I did, but I somehow said something. And he says, okay, I will send you my speech that I give every year and a half to my top 200 managers.
Mm.
I said, oh my God, I would pay to read it. So I did take it, and I looked at it, and I worked on it, and I had another Cambridge graduate in English look at the English style and I the American style, and I was reading this strategy that he was going to do in a year and a half. And so I just was enchanted, and I worked very hard on it and sent it to him. And then calls me up and says, send me the invoice. I said,
What?
did you use the information? He said, well, not really. I said, well, then I don't want to be paid.
Mm.
And I was starving, believe me. I just started my company. I didn't know how to have needs, but I said, I'm not a groupie.
Yeah.
I want to be useful, a bit idealistic. But on the other hand, from their perspective, it's like, okay, they only want to provide value. It's not commercial, which I was a bit naive, but that's how I felt. And so this happened another time, and I said, no way. And the third time he said, yes, I did use it. And that started a relation of trust. And so I had the privilege and the honor to read a lot of his speeches, not all, because Nestle has a slew of people. So basically, and even the head of PR that I knew vaguely, head of PR Nestle, said, how in the world did you get contact with him? Because they're gatekeepers. And so what I can encourage your listeners is to do it. Just go for it. What do you lose? A rejection? Well, you reject it anyway if you don't do anything.
Right.
So if someone really interested and your heart's in the right place, go for it.
I love it. It's amazing. I mean, so you just pulled the trigger on a letter. What have I got to lose? That was the biggest question, right? That kind of came across.
Yeah. And I really wanted to help him. I really was convinced that he could do better, and even though combined with a great admiration for his passion, for his ideas, and his vision. So it's a combination between being highly respectful and admiration for the person, but saying, he could tweak this and tweak that, and could be even
constructive
better.
criticism coming into it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
wow. Wow. And when did that happen? When did I mean, because you launched Excellent Executive Coaching in 1996, right?
Yes. Well, at the beginning, I have a company in Switzerland. It's called MKB Conseil et Coaching, and that's the name of my Swiss company. So I was living in Switzerland. In the last 4 years, I'm living in the US, and it's called Excellent Executive Coaching.
And it said, is it an extension of the original business?
It's the same business, except one's in Europe. And so I have a lot of European clients, and this one is in the US. And I moved to the US.
So was that event a catalyst for setting up and building your leadership business? Is that something that kind of inspired you to go in that direction?
Yes, that's a good question. One, it gave me the confidence, because I was a banker.
Yeah.
And it gave me the confidence that I could contribute. Second, it made me say, okay, I might have 2 masters and a PhD, but I never want to be nervous again with a leader. Never. So
Wow,
I'll
that's
go
huge.
back and doing a coaching certification so that I know how to ask questions that brings value to the person.
Mm-hmm.
So it was both. And then he gave me a big mandate. So that was a huge start in my career.
Yeah. What do you mean by big mandate?
Well, I had to do the value principles of this international company. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very prominent international company. And so to get, how can you encapsulate the key values of the company and what
Right.
it stands for? So I traveled to Germany, I traveled to the US, I traveled all over Switzerland to interview the top leaders and what they wanted the company to represent.
Okay, that is a
So
big
very,
mandate.
yes, yes, yes. It's a big mandate, and my PhD did qualitative research. So what
Mhm.
does that mean? Qualitative research means you interview a lot of people with a certain, and then it was an inductive, meaning I don't, my questions are very broad, and I
Uh-huh.
see what surfaces. And
Mm,
if a certain value is redundant, or certain perception of a leader is redundant, then it means something significant.
mm,
So for example, today when I coach a person, but I'll go into a company and see how that leader's perceived, what is his strength, and what will help him have or her have more productive relationships. I don't see weaknesses because productive relationships makes the responsibility on the two people instead of, oh, my weaknesses.
mm,
And as you said, I'm known to help brilliant leaders,
mhm.
brilliant but jerks, trans, transform into inspiring leaders. So I don't want to go and research work. The brilliance definitely comes out,
Mhm.
but I don't want to have them say, so why is he a jerk? But then they have all this negativity. No, I'll say, why is the relation, how could it be more productive? And that information will give the leader maybe contradictory information, but people are different and they want
Right.
different things. So they can develop their leadership agility. That is, how are they going to react according to the situation at
Mhm.
hand? Is it entrepreneurs? Is it a mature company? Or is it a merger and acquisition? These are situations. Or how are they going to react according to the person? Are there someone that is very savvy, but not motivated? Or is it somebody that is highly motivated, but doesn't have the skill set? So if he doesn't have the skill set, you'll get, the leader needs to say, okay, I've got to reduce the project so they can succeed. I need to put a mentor together so that they can learn, or I'd send them on a course. But
Mhm.
if the person lacks motivation, then it's a whole different discussion.
Yeah,
So that's what
absolutely.
I mean by leadership agility.
And yeah, you have a very, very interesting take on it, right? I mean, it's transforming brilliant jerks into to be inspiring leaders, and I think there's a lot of challenge in that territory. I mean, mostly for the most part, most CEOs, we tend to come into things at least, in the beginning stages, right? Or fighting. It's a back and forth fight between the ego and what we really don't know. So it can be a very challenging thing, right? To come in and then help somebody out, fine tune their leadership skills by understanding the team, and the people behind them. Do you feel like for example, a sense of validation comes in the way of CEOs or people at top tiers in management, understanding the rest of the teams? For example, have you seen that to be one of the common um, factors or elements?
Yeah, especially with people that are brilliant, like brilliant scientists, a top-notch cardiologist,
Mhm.
and that the company looks for years to bring in, and then they find out he has no bedside manner, and then none of the nurses want to work with him. So
He's
so
amazing,
that's,
but he's a jerk.
yeah, But he's a jerk, yes. So a lot of them, of these brilliant jerks,
Mhm.
are so smart in a certain area that they forget that for other people, it might be more difficult. What is so easy for them might be
Mhm.
difficult for others. And they tend to reduce it to they're lazy or they're stupid or whatever, instead of standing back and sort of saying, okay, I have an incredible skill set here. And I am the leader. I'm the best cardiologist. Yes, maybe, but I have to help other people and develop capacity in the company and develop talent. And
Yeah.
so to put them in that situation, not all brilliant jerks are mean to be mean. I don't think so. Otherwise, they're psychopaths. And I don't work with psychopaths. That's a sickness, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a completely different can of worms coming into it.
Right.
But I think a lot of the times, I mean, it can also fall back into the awareness, right? Uh, for example, I know I had, and I'll speak for myself on this, but as I'm developing myself, as I'm growing as an individual, growing as a business leader, and I learn more. I have to bring back or bring myself back to the awareness that not everybody knows what I know. When I'm
Mhm.
talking to my team, stuff that may seem normal because I'm in it every single day because of
Mhm.
the vantage point that I have on the business, right? I'm looking at things a certain way, so that's it's almost like a normal way of being. But if you talk about or if you talk to the marketing person, they're going to have a different perspective on the business, and their understanding is different, so they see things from a different angle. And a lot of times I feel like, okay, cool, this is just so easy to see, but I have to bring myself back to the awareness that, you know what, it's I have a different vantage point. It's not even a matter of IQ. It's a matter of having different points of view and perspectives on the company, for one, right?
Mhm.
And then just overall development. So bringing it back to like a plain level, it can be somewhat challenging, but it's a consistent exercise. Uh,
Mhm.
to understand how people see the company and what their capacity is, and for me to understand that I can't rush certain things. I can't come in and then just unleash when people are not being productive. And more than likely it's because there's some tweak to be done coming
Mhm.
into it, and a lot of it, I mean, falls back on the leadership type. So
Mhm. You covered two things: the culture.
mhm.
The culture, what I would describe like the military, it's to save their country. They have
Right.
a different mindset. And the businessman, it's the bottom line to make the company grow, right?
Mhm.
It's a bit reductive what I'm saying, but those are two different mindsets, two different cultures, the marketing and the finance. And then you have what you say that as a leader, you in your field are an expert, and it seems so evident that people don't catch on.
Right.
Well, some leaders compute things so quickly that they just don't understand that somebody else
Yeah.
can't compute with that same level of understanding. Yes, and so that already makes them much more tolerant,
Mhm.
especially if they want to help their teams, if they want to succeed. I think it's also important that they know. You talked about ego. Yes, a lot of them have big egos because they are high achievers.
Right.
But I'll say also, if you go to their background, sometimes they grew up uh, and their parents really just, in some ways, overemphasized the results they can
Mhm.
get and what
Performance.
they
Yeah.
can obtain, the performance, rather than, like, are you a parent at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you love your kids for who they are,
Absolutely.
right?
100%. Yeah. They're knuckleheads.
And
I love them.
yeah, and for what they do. If they do well, you're very proud, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what happens if your love is only conditional? You
Oh,
only show love when they do well,
yeah.
and you show sort of a negative attitude when they do well. What happens if you grow up constantly? Can you imagine the pressure you have on yourself when you're adult? It's like, okay, I'm only good as long as I get those results. But
When I
if I
perform.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah, when they perform, I'm nobody, you see. So
it also becomes a matter of acceptance, right? Internal acceptance, and you kind of going back to that validation thing. I'm only worth it if what I'm doing is worth it, as opposed to looking at the beingness of the person.
that's right. Very well said. Yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I mean that's a hugely important point, I think, that you're bringing up. I love it. But yeah, it's anytime, you know, and I'll keep stay with the example of my kids, but anytime they do something, if it's silly, I'll celebrate it. If it's really smart, I'll celebrate it. If it's something that they're kind of being knuckleheads about, but they learned something, I'll celebrate it. You know what I mean? And it's just a celebration of the beingness as opposed to the performance, which I think a lot of the people who are tend to be in our area is that performance and high achievement has been almost conditionally built into them.
Right. Exactly. Well said. Uh-huh.
So what do you do? Okay, so give me some. I guess I would like to tap into some actionables or takeaways that people can start to practice or just be aware of to develop their own leadership skills, or become, if they're leaning towards that brilliant jerk side, how do they balance it and become more of that great leader that every organization needs?
Well, first of all, I have on my website, Excellent Executive Coaching, I have an exercise to develop your emotional intelligence. They have plenty of IQ, but it's really their interpersonal skills.
Right.
And so that's available. And on an organizational level, because you're an organizational psychologist and I'm an organizational developer. So I would say first, there's several things that a leader can do within his company to discourage the growth of brilliant jerks. One is excusing bad behavior. Oh, he's bringing in the results. Who cares? He's
do whatever
he's going through a divorce, so it'll pass. Or she's having personal problems. No, you can't excuse bad behavior. You have to nip it in the bud. And then you want to have, on an organizational level, leadership principles. And that's what I did for that company. So those leadership principles by itself is not worth it. You have to enact it. You have to live it. What kind of leadership do you want? What kind of leadership do you not want? What is a conflict of interest? What is developing others? If you have a high value and a company systematically evaluates leaders on who they develop, for example, you'll find that they'll develop a lot more people. So those leadership principles are important, and they have to be executed, enacted, meaning played. Then it's important to have leadership evaluations. It's not enough to have principles. Now, evaluate. So a lot of leaders evaluate their employees, and that exercise I have on my website will help them prepare for that.
We'll put it in the show notes, and
Okay.
I'll circle back around to it right now, just to make sure that we have the right page, because I think that's hugely important.
Yes. And maybe I'll explain it at the end.
Okay.
So also, okay, sure.
Love that. Yeah.
So not only evaluate the employees, which this exercise will help you with, but have the employees evaluate the leaders on a regular basis, so that they can get feedback, and they practice speaking on a more, relational level with their employees. And they also will discover that each employee might need something different at different times. So not to have the leaders assume that their employees need such and such. Instead, find out what the employees need to do their job better or to be more performant.
From their side of the fence, right? As opposed to just a general assumption of this person is like this person is like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that will force them to have leadership agility to change according to the person and the context. Then And also the mentality of the results to justify the means. That definitely is not conducive to good behavior. And also another element is specify how teams should work together. You mentioned teams earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them said, we got to reach this and we got to get this result. No, yes, that's very important. The goals of the team and what their project and how they're going to manage their project. But what is also important is how are they going to work together? How are they going to support each other? Are they going to accept criticism that breaks down the other person or makes them shut up so that they never talk in conversations? How are they going to hear everyone in the room so that and these are charts, leadership team charts. But the how to get to the results is just as important as the results they want to achieve. So that needs to be discussed. There should be clear consequences of bad behavior. Leaders should know that if they see bad behavior within their teams, they should call on it. And sometimes you have avoidant leaders that avoid any conflict or this unpleasant situation. And so if you have an employee that's very difficult and a boss, a leader that is an avoidant leader that avoids any conflict or any confrontation, then you potentially have a situation that can get worse.
Yeah, I think, well, it all starts to bubble up, right? Things start adding up and almost like a set of Legos. Just next thing you know, you have this wall that's been built up just because of allowing, I guess we get what we tolerate at the end of the day within the companies. I think it's a very important point what you're making in terms of the results do not justify the means. I completely agree with that. I think the journey itself is just as important as where you're going to get at an organizational level, and being in a space where people can collaborate, being in a space where people feel belonging, being in a space where people feel like they can make an impact. They could be a catalyst for change. They can be, a good thing in the world as opposed to just performing. Or doing some tasky work doesn't give them a paycheck. I think that's becoming more and more important, especially over last recent years. I think a lot of people are waking up in terms of taking the importance of what they're doing and meaning, and giving that a high sense of value. I mean, if not more than the actual paycheck. So building a company and a culture that embraces that kind of growth, that embraces that kind of development within the teams, I think it's a beautiful thing. So inspiring leaders are definitely going to be more popular here pretty soon than brilliant jerks.
Yes, I think so, because there's more choice, there's more education from employees. Before, maybe the assumption was that leader knows it all and employees
Right.
not, but not today, not with the complexity and the degree of change that there is today. So, and also, you have leaders that are just turnaround situation leaders, and then the company spits them out because no one wants to follow with them, but they cut all the fat of the company.
Yeah.
That's the risk. I mean, there are leaders that just do that. Like Alfred Hilton, he said there's 3 types of leaders. The one that grows the company, the one that makes the company more sustainable, and the one that is specialized in restructuring the company. And of course, that type of leader is looking just at the results and how to get better results, and often a pretty heartless in who they throw away.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the that bottom line mentality. I mean, it's important, right? It's not that we want to get out of a competitive space or be less competitive in a place that's dynamic and constantly changing. It's I don't think it's any of that, but I think it's important to have the understanding that as a team, instead of having a top-down, type of a approach to leadership, having an understanding that people have different talents, people have different, the person next to me may be way better than me at I don't know, marketing. They may be way better than me at being resourceful, or something like that. And tapping into that, you can't tap into that kind of talent because people are not going to be open, comfortable, or available to share if you're bottlenecking your organization with constricted leadership. So yeah, it's I love it. I mean, everything that you're talking about makes sense, and it's coming from tried and tested
Yes.
principles.
Yes. And the other thing is that even the person that restructures the company and has to fire many people for the survival of the company,
Mhm.
there's ways and ways of doing it. There's ways of respecting the individual, respecting what they contributed, explaining and taking the time to explain the situation, helping them find another job. There's a lot of ways to do it so that it's more human. And those prior employees can be ambassadors, and if they're treated properly. And
Absolutely.
the other thing, it creates less remorse for those that have stayed and seen their colleagues go, because they feel that their colleagues are being treated fairly and don't have all this resentment. So it's good for the company, it's good for the people, and it's good for the branding.
Now, do you see that across the board, or just in like the C-suite type of positions, like CEOs and COOs, and the brilliant jerk effect, or do you see it across the board? Is that something that for example you work on at management levels, as opposed to just only with C-suite?
Well, I used to deal with it at all levels because there are brilliant jerks everywhere. But now there are, but I mean, they're brilliant too. I just want to, that's why I put these two words,
Yeah.
because they might be very, very good. If they weren't brilliant, the company would probably fire them very quickly. So if they do bring something to the company that the company wants. Okay, so
yeah.
yeah, I work with leaders because I think it has bigger impact, because if you change the behavior of a leader and how he interacts or how she interacts with employees, I think it has a bigger impact than an employee. An employee merits just as much attention.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think I could reduce less suffering in the workplace if I work with leaders.
At the higher levels, and I think in a nutshell, I guess the overall idea is to add emotional intelligence, right, to
Yes.
intellectual intelligence,
Yes,
the
exactly.
intellect, the
Exactly.
drive, the tenacity, the fuel, the fire to keep going,
Yeah.
all those things that we glorify about great
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Those are already in there. A lot of the times, the emotional intelligence and the awareness that somebody else has feelings, they have a heart. They they have
Yeah.
they're sensitive. People are sensitive. You're
Yeah,
not
people
sensitive.
are sensitive.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And
just part of being human, right? But understanding and
yeah,
taking that into
yeah.
the overall development.
And once you understand that, you can be inspiring.
Mm,
But in all fairness, I worked for the Swiss government for startups,
mm-hmm,
and some young entrepreneurs that are super talented are so focused on developing their business, but they haven't had much leadership skills or people management. And so it's despite themselves that sometimes they have negative effect on
mm.
their employees. And that could be quite easily corrected, especially if it's done early on.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, there's still hope out there.
Yeah, sure.
No, it's because I mean the connotation sometimes can be leaders are born and some leaders are made, and like the battle between the two, but I think having that high degree of emotional intelligence really plays into the capacity or the charisma of a leader, right? What's your take on that? Do you feel like some people are just more inclined to be leaders and kind of wired that way, or somebody who feels like they don't have that leadership capacity but they would like to become a leader of their department, their management, or their company at at some level or someday, do you think they have a shot at it? What's your honest take? And it's kind of like a loaded question. I know, I hate to put you in that
Yeah,
spot, but
no,
I'm really curious.
that's fine. They have to be useful in their expertise. Huh?
Mhm.
They have to bring whatever their expertise is to the company. I'm assuming they're good at it.
Mhm.
Okay. The rest is that the higher level you go in the
Mhm.
hierarchy, the less you do personally. Okay. You have to work through people to get change done, to get a restructuring done, to get the work done, or to sustain. So it becomes even more important as you become a leader to develop those skills. And also, I helped somebody who had an objective of going to the C-suite.
Mhm.
And so, how did I help him? I said, first of all, even if you're an employee, come to your leader and bring them to a discussion that's peer to peer. Even if they ask you to do something, then come with two options and explain one option to the other, and also take position. Do you prefer option A or option B? So that you've done all the work intellectually, so that when you come to your boss, it's a more leader to leader type of discussion.
That's
Or if it
exactly what you
isn't,
did on that Nestle example.
yes, I guess so.
Yeah.
And so that helps discussion to be at a higher level,
Mhm.
and you will learn how your boss thinks too. And that's one of the ways to have a better discussion and be perceived, and also to help your leader. I
Mhm.
mean, not just me, and what I do, but it's like, how can you have a partnership with your leader? Sometimes you don't respect your leader, and that makes it a little difficult, but there's still a way to agree to not agree on certain things and determine what you can agree on. And this fellow is also networking. I mean, at a certain level, when you go
Mhm.
to a board meeting, you don't go to the board meeting to do a presentation. You go to, before you lobby to the different people,
Mhm.
see where they think, what they think, what's their take on it, argue the point, so that when you come to the meeting, it's a decision that's made,
Yeah.
not a sales. You do that
Mm.
let's say,
That's
the
that's
persuasion before.
that's huge. That is huge. And I think there's also like it can be a factor of intimidation, right? People are intimidated by the organization's leader. Oftentimes, oh, you know what? He's the boss, and automatically they get edified. But you know what? That person has questions too. The person has insecurities. The owners, the CEOs, even though sometimes we may not verbalize it, half the time I have no idea if what I'm doing is right. Maybe more. I mean, to be completely honest, right? Because we're always kind of creating. We're always in that space of figuring stuff out on a path that we are carving out. So a lot of times, even though there may be business models in place, the details are we're coming up with those and trying to figure those out on the fly. Oftentimes, um, so there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of the point I'm trying to make is that a second perspective, most of the time, if it's done right, like you're talking about, it's going to be appreciated.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And a lot of leaders are very lonesome because they have to
Oh
take
yeah.
all these responsibilities and everything at the higher level, and there's no one really they can talk to. So if they can have a conversation that is stimulating, interesting,
Mhm.
and getting different perspectives, like you say, it's it's more fulfilling for the leader
Oh yeah.
as
And
well.
it's well, it's impactful. And then if you wanna level up to that leadership role at some point, like that's how you do it, by
Mhm.
showing leadership, right? Not having a theoretical understanding of what leadership is. Just you got to take action, just like you said at the beginning of the show. So,
Mhm.
1,000%, 1,000%
Yeah.
agree with that. uh, Dr. Burrus, thank you so much. I mean, before we start signing off, I want to make sure that we have your contact information and ways to, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, maybe perhaps coach with you, or reach out to you and find out more about how you handle leadership and how you train and coach leaders. Where is the best place to find you at?
I think what's good is to go to my website, excellentexecutivecoaching.com. Excellentexecutivecoaching.com. There's a lot of free articles about 18 tips to stop abrasive behavior,
Oh,
how to develop your emotional intelligence. There's also a lot of podcasts, which is called Excellent Executive Coaching Podcast,
mhm.
that is there to help entrepreneurs to develop their businesses and to better coach other people. And I'm coming up soon with a leadership podcast
Mhm.
where very interesting people will be on the show. Yeah, I'm
Love
looking
it.
forward to that. I
Love it.
also have a
Oh, wow.
mastermind. And if you ever invite me again, I'll talk all about masterminding and
I
why
would
it's
love to have
important
you
for
again on the
leaders.
show.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Rafael.
And that website is excellentexecutivecoaching.com. We'll be sure to put it on the show notes so people can come in and check
Thank
it
you.
out. Definitely. I just wanted to throw a reminder out there. You do have an assessment on this website that's for gauging and kind of having a better understanding of your emotional intelligence, the levels, and then also for your. I mean, owners can use that for their employees as well. Is that something that can happen?
Well, yes, it's just an exercise
Mhm.
to that they can fill out, and before they have an employee meeting,
Okay.
so they'll gather all these ideas that are sort of not very concrete, put in the system that it is, and then find out what it is, what they do not know.
Mhm.
So it gives um, a template, and after you know all those answers, you'll be much better equipped to have that conversation, even a difficult conversation.
I love it. I'm definitely jumping on that right after the show. So
Okay, great, Rafael.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Is there a place to find you on social media?
Oh yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Katrina Burrus.
Hmm.
I'm on Instagram, Dr. Katrina Burrus. I'm on Facebook, Katrina Burrus, or Excellent Executive Coaching, MKB, Excellent Executive Coaching. I'm definitely on social media, on YouTube.
Perfect.
Yeah, I
What's the
love
YouTube
to.
channel?
Pardon me?
What's the YouTube channel? What's the name of the YouTube
It's
channel?
called Dr. Katrina Burrus.
Dr.
And
Katrina
so,
Burrus.
yeah, and there I've interviewed quite a few leaders because I used to
Mhm.
have my show in Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm definitely diving into those. Trust me, I'm gonna binge. I'm gonna binge watch.
Okay,
Uh,
okay,
so
keep in contact. Okay,
absolutely, 1,000%.
yeah,
Before I sign off, this is my favorite question, and it has almost like a personal meaning to me, right? But I like to ask people if you were walking down the street and you went back in time and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that young Katrina?
I would. First of all, I was a woman, okay, and I had a very chauvinistic father that thought women should be at home having babies, cooking,
Mm,
no?
mm,
So I say to all those ladies that have a chauvinist father, go for it. Give it your energy to
go for
get
it.
for it. And I would say, really, it's important to have good people around you.
Mm,
To have good people that you don't do everything alone. You do it with a lot of people. And it's important those people are around you, that they give you good input.
mm. I love it. Go for it and have good people around you. I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
that's it. Go for it though. And who cares? You can
Go
always
for it.
get up again.
I'm seeing a theme here with along with action.
Yeah.
Take action, go for it and do your thing. That's how you've gotten massive result and have been able to be in the situations that you've been so far, which are amazing. I mean, doing all this growth, this impact and the level of performance and ripple effects that you're having across the world in leadership positions. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. Dr. Burrus, thank you so much. I appreciate you
Thank you,
taking the
Rafael.
time and really,
Thank
diving
you.
deep on leadership with us. I would really love to have you again on the podcast. We definitely got to connect.
Okay. Yes, let's do that. Okay. Thank
Let's
you,
do it.
Rafael. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. Bye-bye.
There you go. There you guys have it, fam. We have another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast in the books. Check it out. Stay focused. You got this. Boom.